Hello and welcome to Filmi Ladies. I am Beth. Pitu is here as well. And today we're talking about the Kapoors that nobody cares about. It's time for Randhir, Babita, and Randhir.
No, Rajiv.
Rajiv.
Wow,
What did I
you
say?
really don't
I
know
said
that.
Randhir twice. Rajiv. Should I do this again? Should I just do this intro
No, it's
again?
actually funny. I love
Okay,
that.
we'll just keep that in. I did just finish reading the chapter about both of them. They both together are in one chapter of the Kapoor bio, and it's a much
Of
shorter
course.
chapter than any of the others so far. And its title is Lost in the Shadows.
Wow, that's
Harsh, a little
savage.
harsh. I'm not going to say it's untrue.
Right.
Uh, I have not sampled any of these three people's work extensively. I also don't have a particularly good sense of them as like public figures or as personas or celebrities or whatever. Do you?
No, I feel like everything I know about Randhir and Babita is via Karishma and Karina
Mm-hmm.
because they're so close to their parents and they reference them so much,
Hmm.
especially Karishma does. So I feel like everything I know about Babita is via Karishma Kapoor's interviews.
Do you want to know the gossip I learned about Babita from the
Yes.
Kapoor bio, which
Yes,
I've read
please.
before? Note, I have read this. I don't remember. Do you know who she had an affair with?
No. Should
Ranjit.
I? Okay. Amazing.
I mean, I'm sure a few people love Ranjit more than I do, but like I'm a big fan and I'm really on a roll of seeing a lot of great roles for him lately. I've just kind of he's I'm not just seeking those out. I should. And I
Right.
just watched something with him in it yesterday with for my Run film. Uh
Mm.
you go, Babita.
I know.
According to
Wow.
the bio, Randhir also had a lot of affairs, but the author does not name any of those women. So I'm like, okay, her affair is named, but his is not. Like,
Right.
mm, this filmy lady does not approve of that treatment of that filmy lady,
Right.
but anyway, so what, so you have not much of an impression other than through what Charisma says about her parents.
Yeah. Because it's not like I seek these people out. Having said that, Randhir is the star of Kal Aaj Aur Kal, which I've said before is one of my favorite movies. I love that movie so much. And Babita is in it also.
I mean, and
Um,
director, which is a big deal.
Yeah, and he's actually directed it really well, I have to say. So I
Yeah.
feel like he should have maybe done more directorial stuff. But also, I feel like Randhir is actually really good at comedy, especially physical comedy. He has that face, like the goofiness. He kind of looks like a Muppet, I feel like.
Yeah.
And he's very physical. And he does share one trait with all of the Kapoors, which is he is excellent in songs.
Hmm.
Like he's very good at emoting in all these like cute, boppity romantic numbers that he has, especially with Babita. And my favorite thing about Babita is probably her costume design.
Yeah.
So she mostly did her own costumes. So in most of her films, it would be
Did
like costumes by,
she?
she did. So usually in her films, it will say like costumes by Miss Babita Shivdasani because she
Oh, I
designed
love
her
it.
own.
Love
Yeah.
it.
And Babita is a perfect example of someone whose costumes I personally would not touch with a barge pole. Like you could not pay me to wear the frilly, ruffly birthday cake like concoctions that she used to wear with the big giant bows and the laces. And she wore a lot of baby doll dresses. However, she looks adorable in them. And because she looks adorable in them and she clearly loves wearing them, she just has such an amazing confidence in them that she almost looks like a fashion icon to me. So I
Yeah.
really do enjoy Babita's outfits. And I love the elan with which she carries off these very Barbie-licious monstrosities. I once compiled a collage of all of Babita's costumes from Kal Aaj Aur Kal and sent them to you and Amrita. And Amrita
Yeah.
was just laughing and she was like, wow, if I ever want to look like a cupcake, I'll wear these things. So yes, human cupcake is how I would describe Babita. Not particularly an actor, but then neither was Randhir. What about you?
Well, you didn't even talk about the last one there. There's not much to say, right?
There's really not much to say.
Yeah, I don't have a strong feeling about any of them. Randir, I feel very much the Kapoor genes came for him really hard, really early. I would
Yeah,
say he he and I'm sorry to focus on appearance. I know I shouldn't do that. It's just striking to me how much older he looks than he really is, even
yeah,
when he's fairly young. Um, I haven't seen a ton of his films. I would agree that I find him pretty good at comedy, at least based on what
Mhm,
I've seen. But I trust you about the songs. Again, I don't feel like I've seen enough to really say.
mhm.
One of the films of his I've seen is Hirilal Panalal, which he does with Shashi. So of course my eyes were elsewhere.
Right. His
If I
uncle.
Yeah, if I were to rewatch it, I'm sure I could, pay more attention. Babita, I always enjoy her clothes. Interestingly, IMDb only gives her one costume credit, but
Oh,
maybe people just haven't entered it for all the movies, right?
right.
Um, I think there is something about the way she wears clothes that I think is really fun. I was noticing when I was watching things this time that she seems to be a person who doesn't know what to do with her hands
Mm,
on camera, which is relatable. If you've ever performed anything, like I'm a choir singer and have been most of my life. If I didn't have a folder to hold, I wouldn't know what to do with my hands. Like I get it. She's always like moving her dupatta and
right. He's very
um,
fidgety.
yeah, and just kind of uh lurching, kind of
Yeah.
like, but that's also some 60s kind of style, right? So it's not just her. um I've never noticed an actor who loved to stick plastic flowers on things or have plastic flowers stuck on things more than I see them on her often. Again, maybe it's just the time and I haven't noticed it, but like I don't associate big plastic flowers with Sharmila Tagore, for example,
No,
but with
right.
Babita I do. And then
Pom-poms also.
pom
She
poms
wears a lot of
also
pom-poms.
A
This is
plus.
why I think that she actually did have a very strong hand in, if not designing every single of her costumes in her movies, I think she was definitely that person that went up to the actual costume designer and
Yeah.
they were like, I want to wear blah, blah, blah from my wardrobe. Because her outfits in her films are shockingly consistent.
Mm.
And she wears these like peacoats that no one else was wearing at the time. And she wears these
Mm.
pom pom hats and she wears these cute gloves and stuff, many of which I feel like she had to have personally purchased them on her jaunts abroad. And she probably just wore them herself. I just don't, because her style is so distinct from everyone else. And I really enjoy her as a fashion icon more than,
Mhm.
most people are.
Does she
So
have a pom-pom sari like in Jewel Thief?
I don't think she has I haven't seen her with pom pom sari, but I have seen her in saris that have like three-dimensional things like
Nice.
hanging off of them.
Nice.
Like I
Nice.
think in that song with Shammi that she has Badan pe sitare lapete who I think she has some like 3D stuff happening. But
Nice.
her outfits are always a thought. There's always a
Yes.
thought and an
Yeah.
idea behind them. It's not just like thrown together. So
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And a rumor has it that she actually designed a lot of Karishma Kapoor's costumes when she
Ah.
started out in films, like when she was doing like Prem Kaidi and Nishcha and stuff. And now, like you'll understand looking back, like if you see those old movies, the perm and the flouncy Barbie doll dresses, that is all classic Babita. It's just
Interesting.
Babita could carry it off and Karishma Kapoor couldn't. So, like, that song I sent you from YouTube, the Dekho Dekho Tum from Nishchay, that that is a classic Babita outfit that she has basically foisted on her daughter, but her daughter doesn't know what to do in it. But Babita could have carried it off.
It
So,
makes me think eh, s- all eras have some
yes.
stylizedness to them, but it kind of contrasts what a difference late 60s, early 70s stylized is versus 90s,
Yeah.
maybe.
That same thing didn't translate by the
Yeah.
90s. Like by the 90s, it was just looking dated and terrible. And it just didn't. Also, their physicality is so different. Like those fluffy, floofy things look really cute on Babita. But Karishma Kapoor was stick thin when she like debuted in the films. So on her extremely petite and tiny figure, those big, like tiered, floofy dresses, they just ate her up. Like she just couldn't pull them off the way her mom could. And I think that also gives rise to that momager
Mm.
image that Babita had, because rumor has it that Babita is the one that really pushed Karishma
Mm.
into films because she did not want her daughters to be dependent on anyone. Because after Babita and Randhir's separation or divorce or whatever, supposedly Randhir pretty much like cut Babita off and she had to raise those
Mm.
daughters by herself. So she wanted
Oh,
her daughters to have a career.
that's interesting because the book does talk briefly about um it's got a narrative of poor Randhir Kapoor to it, kind of like,
Ah,
you know,
interesting.
um, and it talks about how he misses his daughters and things like that. So I'm like, well, if
Mm,
he cut them off, he must not have missed them
yeah.
too much. So
I mean, based on what I've read and also reading between the lines of the some of the things that Karishma and Karina have said over the years, I get the impression that, and I read a Randhir Kapoor interview where he himself said, I was a horrible husband because he was basically an
Mm,
alcoholic
mhm,
and he didn't work much, partly due to his alcoholism. And at the same time, they didn't want Babita to work because she was a Kapoor bahu or whatever.
right.
So she gave up her successful career after marrying Randhir. He wasn't making much money, and the Kapoors weren't really propping him up per se, and he was an alcoholic, and she just had enough of it, and she walks out. And I read that a lot of the Kapoors essentially just kind of cut her off after that, like even
Mm,
socially. Like they were kind of persona non grata to, like Babita and the daughters were kind of persona non grata to like Rishi and Neetu, for instance. And so there's definitely some like bad blood there.
huh.
And she wanted her daughters to be financially independent and to have careers of their own. And she definitely let them down. So she was very much like a momager.
You'd think of
Um,
anyone Neetu Singh could empathize with her. Married into the
just
you were an
fuck's
actor,
sake.
you gave it up. This is your husband.
Yeah.
Uh, the more I learn about Neetu Singh in real life, the harder it
Yeah.
is to be a fan. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Um, and then, Rajiv, like everyone, I did finish all of Ram Teri Ganga Maili. I just want my gold star. I did it.
You get it. You get an A plus excellent gold star. You get a hat and
I
all the
have
things.
some I have
You
some
get a
thoughts.
medal.
We'll get there. I didn't bother to watch anything else by him, involving him, I should say. The book is a little kind of similar to him, like talking a little bit about the age at which he was when his father died and how that impacted him.
Oh, Rajiv.
And again, the drinking came
Why
really
was he very
early.
young
Yeah,
when
he was
RK died?
fairly young.
Okay.
And it was just a couple years after Ram Teri Ganga.
Oh, so he
So
must
he
have
would
been
have been
fairly
like
young.
20, his early 20s when his dad died.
Okay.
He's not super young in some ways, but
Mm.
the book agrees with me that he looks shockingly like Shammi Kapoor, which was funny to
Oh,
me because I know you were kind of seeing different
yeah.
things in
I
it.
see a lot of Rishi in Rajiv's face.
Yeah, yeah. And that he also kind of fell in this funky era of the kind of hero he had any chance of being was not really in vogue at the time.
Yeah.
And Rondeur as well. Like they were never going to be 70s and 80s action heroes.
Hmm.
Um, and then the style of romancing that was in vogue they couldn't really do that. So there wasn't really a place for them, which is
I mean,
fascinating given that Shashi is right there as a model of like doing all sorts of kinds of films. And I don't know if they didn't pursue it or no one asked them or they did pursue it and they were unsuccessful or what, but like they don't find anything else to do, it seems.
right. It does seem like there must have been some sort of lack of initiative, right? Because think about it.
You
Your
wonder.
father owns RK Studios. You
Yeah.
come from your family. All of your family members are superstars. Just the strings you could pull, and you could do different things like do masala, do alternative, do some theater, do I don't know, do different kinds of things,
Yeah,
get
and
into music.
they don't do theater at all as far as I
No.
can tell. Which is
Randhir, I think, at least had some success because he at least found his niche super early, which was his niche was playing the rich, spoiled, goofy guy.
mm,
That was his niche. So it was kind of like
mhm,
Shami Kapoor light, but
mhm.
without the charisma and the sex appeal. But he was kind of like down that path of like because when he's doing his like cute little rom coms with Babita and Jabadari and whatever, he's actually kind of cute. So at least he found some success with that. But Rajiv, like, I have no idea what Rajiv could have done with his career, given that Shashi Kapoor was still on the scene. Randhir was
Mhm.
on the scene. Rishi Kapoor was already a bona fide star, like his older brother. It's kind of the problem that Sanjay Kapoor suffered from, where it's kind of like your older brother, Anil Kapoor, and you look so alike, but he's already an
Yeah.
established star. What exactly are you bringing to the table? Like, why should I as a ticket purchasing audience person watch a Sanjay Kapoor film? What's in it for me? So it's the
Yeah.
same thing. Why would I watch a Rajiv Kapoor movie when I can just watch Rishi and be assured of a good time?
The book talks a little bit about maybe the alcoholism hitting him the hardest. And
Mm.
apparently when he went off on his drinking binges, he went alone, whereas the other Kapoors tended to do it with their friends. Guess
Mm.
what?
What?
Randhir Kapoor is also good friends with Jitendra and Rakesh Roshan.
Yes,
They're like
they're all
friends with
buddies.
everyone.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. And
Which
the
is very believable. He's very like jolly. Like every
I
time I see
guess
like a
so.
rom-com of Randhir Kapoor's, I'm like, I would be friends with you. You're cute. You're funny. You're hilarious. You throw money around. Let's be
Uh,
friends. Why not?
the book says that Rajiv's wife also kind of sought help from some of the other Kapoor women and they did not help.
Yeah.
And the book even says, Krishna Kapoor did not help when Neetu Singh went to her for help with Rishi. So it's not good. And of
I mean,
course,
I feel
both of these
like
people
being
have
a Kapoor male is fun and easy until it's terrible.
until
Like
it's
being a
really not.
Kapoor bahu is not for the
And
faint of
and as usual,
heart.
the asterisk applies, the Raj line.
Yeah,
We're talking about the Raj
exactly.
line. But yeah, I feel for the women in that situation a lot. And I feel for the men too. Like this is not
Right.
gilded cage is still a cage, etc. But it's the alcoholism that's the real problem here, I think.
Yeah.
But it is both of these boys are an interesting case of sometimes nepotism only takes you so far.
Right.
And like you can ask Lake Tandon to help your son, but after a certain point, it's not
Yeah.
it is not a guarantee. Now, for some children, that's enough, but for these two, it was not enough. Probably, I would assume partly because what they were able to do well, if anything, in the case of one
Mm.
of them, was not in fashion.
Right. But also like look at the competition, Beth. Like
It's
it's the
fierce.
70s.
It's
There's
fierce.
Amitabh Bachchan ruling the roost. There's Vinod Khanna neck and neck with Amitabh in, getting
Yeah.
people to come to the theaters.
Yeah.
There's actors, like there's
Yeah.
like Sanjeev Kumar and people like that. Like there's Rishi Kapoor who's making a good name for himself.
Yeah.
He's doing movies like Cars.
Jitendra is still around.
Jitendra is
Like
doing good stuff.
Jitendra's doing good
What
stuff. Yeah.
exactly do you bring to the table?
I don't know. And in the couple of films I've seen him in, he's kind of doing a Shashi in that he is kind of the second hero, I would say. But
Yes.
I don't, like I said, I didn't even really notice him in Kirlal Panalal, although it's been a while since I saw it. I did watch for this uh Haath Ki Safai, which I
Okay.
did quite enjoy, but Vinod Khanna is there and he actually won a filmfare for this film, which is kind of interesting. I didn't
Oh.
strike me as that amazing, but whatever. Who knows how the filmfares work? But he is I would say Vinod is the more charismatic person. But I did think
Well,
that Randhir
obviously.
was good. I mean, like he was the comic of the
Right.
two. They are long lost brothers. Vinod is the elder, as he always seems to get saddled with being, which is kind of too bad. But Randhir is kind of fun as a pickpocket, like
Okay.
goofy. He falls in love with Hema
Goofy.
Malini. Like it worked pretty well for me. I will put in the caveat here. I hate that mustache. I hate it a lot. But nobody asked me, so it's fine.
It's okay. We discuss facial hair and Filmi Ladies all the time. We're known for this.
I think it ages him. I really do.
Yeah.
Especially because he looks so much like his dad, right? So
Yeah.
if you already look a lot like your dad, I can see how maybe it would be beneficial to do at least one thing to sort of just because maybe you don't want to walk around with colored contacts all the time. Fair enough. Shave the mustache, man.
Right.
But
I do
fake
like his
mustache.
groovy costumes, I will say. Like
He's
in
got
Kal
some
Aaj Aur
groovy
Kal, for
costumes
example, he has some very nice like paisley shirts and vests and bell bottoms
and
and
like a
things like that.
neckerchief.
His
Yeah.
cravat, like it's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
actually kind of cool.
Yeah. I can believe
Um,
that.
yeah. I think also one thing that strikes me is like take inspiration from your dad. Like whatever anyone may think of Raj Kapoor, the man was a genius. At 26, he had his own studio. He was a writer, he was a director, he was an actor, he was heavily involved in the music. He played like 4 or 5 musical instruments. You
Yeah.
don't have to do all the things your dad did, but you could do at least some. And it just doesn't
Yeah.
seem like Randhir or Rajiv had, it doesn't
Well,
feel like they had much initiative.
so according to this book, which
Uh-huh.
does spend more time on Randhir than Rajiv, understandably, Randhir he didn't really want to be an actor. He wanted to be a director, but he felt
Okay.
kind of compelled to stay within the RK system, and his dad only gave him X opportunities to direct.
Okay.
Um, And again, that's a little bit like, oh, poor little Kapoor child. But then also like,
Yeah.
if you have a dream and it's not working out, like that's frustrating. And I can see why you wouldn't really want to risk trying to go out on your own as a director or find someone else to produce for you. Interestingly, he is a producer on Teri Ganga Maili. It's like of all the things to produce, like, ugh.
Yeah.
um,
It's probably the two
yeah,
brothers sticking together. They're
I
like,
guess
"Let's do this
so.
together. It'll
I
be a
guess
joint
so.
project." But I would
Um,
actually argue with your point. I would say if your dad is Mr. Moneybags and you're that connected and you have this infrastructure and the support system behind you, like you're not struggling to pay the rent, I think that is a perfect place of privilege where you should, in fact, try to like get some money and go out on your own and take some chances, right? Because you have the ability to do that.
I think one of the questions is, when do the Kapoors have money and when do they not?
I
Because it
feel like,
does seem to go,
yeah,
and even putting Shashi aside, which we've heard about,
right.
I felt like with Shami, we didn't hear too much about financial.
Because Shami didn't produce stuff.
Yeah, I guess not.
It's
Um,
production that's
yeah,
iffy.
and
You're just
so
an actor and you're cashing those checks, you're fine.
like it'd be hard to make a film right after Marinam Joker, for example, and then you'd
Right.
have to wait a little bit for Bobby to come in and then you can do it or
Yeah.
whatever. So I'm assuming that that must be part of it, but also,
But even
and
if
would his dad have tried to sabotage him if he'd gone out on his own, even if sort of only lightly, like, or would other people have
right,
been afraid of his dad's opinion if they had backed him or something?
right,
Like, I have no idea. I
right.
suspect it's more complicated than we can guess, but I
Yeah.
do in theory agree that like you must be kind of safe at least, right?
Yeah,
Like,
like you're not poor poor.
yeah,
Like,
you're
come
not.
on.
Well, yeah, that's another thing, right? When all
Yeah.
these people talk about not having money, we're like,
I know. Like,
relatively.
there's that favorite Ranveer Singh quote that comes to mind where he said that his family grew up like staunchly middle class, and he was like, "We literally only went on like 2 international vacations a year. Like, we would go to Europe and something else." And I was like, "Okay, I don't think you understand the definition of middle
Yeah.
class." But I think part of the reason I don't have much compassion for these people when they complain about like financing and
No,
stuff is
I
because
know.
being a fan of the parallel cinema, industry, parallel cinema, I've read all these stories about how they used to like scrounge around and try to get money and try to get grants
Yeah.
and they would like couch surf. Like there's so many films that Smita Patel did where she was basically told by the director or by Sham Benegal or whoever, you're pretty much gonna have to wear your own costumes.
Right.
Like raid your own wardrobe because we got no
Right.
money for no costume designer. So it's like if you have all these people that are really desperately just trying to make these films, like, come on, don't tell me you don't have money to make a movie. Maybe you just don't want to make one. I don't know. They
Yeah.
kind of come across as kind of lazy and unmotivated.
The other points the book raises about Randhir is that because he's the oldest of the Raj kids, like he bears the brunt of the terrible marriage and all the domestic. Ugh. And then when his father
Yeah.
dies, he's the one who's really supposed to take on and keep RK running and things like that. And that's a big
Wow. That's a big
burden.
one. Yeah.
No, those are happening at different times, obviously, but
Mm.
that's interesting to think about too. And again, we'll never
Yeah.
really know, but I think those are interesting points. Um, what did you watch? Let's talk about what these people
I
did.
watched Jawani Deewani, which is a movie that I've never seen, but I really
No.
wanted to see because I love that soundtrack.
Mm,
Jawani Deewani is such a phenomenal soundtrack. It's R.D. Burman. It's R.D. Burman firing on all cylinders.
mm,
Kishore Da has sung all pretty much, I think, all the songs. Asha Bhosle has sung all the songs. It's that amazing, like R.D. Kishore Asha combo. It's really just Gulzar that's missing, and the songs are so good. It has one of my favorite songs of all time, which is Jaane Jaan Dhoondta Fir Raha Hu
mm.
Tumhera Din. So good. And then it has Ye Jawani Hai Diwani, the title song, which is so fun. It's very like groovy 70s flower power fun. And Randhir Kapoor is in his element. You can see he's having fun. It's a college romance. Iftikhar, our favorite, is in this movie. So is Balraj Sahni, who always brings a smile on my face. And there is also Nirupar Roy. And so we already start with these like stalwarts. And Iftikhar
Yeah.
plays a very annoying Bade Bhaiya who uses your favorite word multiple times. Is
Is that
that? It's all about is
no?
that. because his sister Nirupa Roy made the very big grave blunder of marrying Balraj Sahni, who's beneath them because he's their accountant's son. How dare she? And so Iftikhar is not speaking to his sister for like 20 years or whatever. And Jaya Bachchan is Iftikhar's daughter. Jaya Badri at the time is Iftikhar's daughter, and she meets Randhir, who is Balraj Sahni's younger brother,
Okay.
at a college, and they start like romancing, blah blah blah, and then old wounds resurface, and Iftikhar is like, oh my god, not only do you want to marry this useless college person, this loafer boy, but also his older brother is the one that snatched my sister away from me. Is that
Is that?
so Iftikhar is very annoying in this movie, but also very handsome and very stern while he's being irritating. Nirupa Roy has many emotional scenes where she calls him Bhaiya, and Balraj Sahni is just underplaying the whole time and just being very like, why am I stuck in this like drama? But Randhir is adorable. He is amazing in all of the songs. Jaya Badri is actually kind of the weak link because she's such a damn squib. And they have
Wrong
very
vibe, right?
very bad vibe and very wrong chemistry, and it is entirely Jaya's fault. Randhir is trying
Mm,
hard. He is being his
interesting.
usual goofy fun self, and I couldn't help but wish that it was Babita instead of Jaya, because Jaya just has, I
That's a
don't know if I've
sentence no one's ever said before.
what was
I
the
wish it
sentence?
was Babita instead of Jaya. Like no one's ever
Yeah,
had that thought.
because, like, Jaya is a good actress, but she's so uptight. She gives the impression, like, her persona is so uptight. You get the feeling that this woman doesn't know how to crack a joke. And if you cracked a joke, she wouldn't get
Mm,
it. Like, she just take your sentence literally. And so she's just kind of this damp squib in the film, and she's trying to like be as goofy as Randhir, and it doesn't work. And I just was wishing for the electric chemistry that Randhir and Babita had. Like, seriously, the songs from Kal
mhm.
Aaj Aur Kal, where they're dancing together and Tum Jab Hoge 60 Saal Ke, or Bhavre Ki Gunjan Hai Mera Dil, they are adorable. Or Aap Yahan Aaye Kis Liye, so darling. And then they have these great songs in this, and Jaya Badri is just like there. And I was like, this is very bad casting.
Mm,
But I give Randhir Kapoor 10 out of 10. In Jawani Deewani, he was
oh,
great. He's also great in Kal Aaj Aur Kal. He is great in BV or BV, BV O BV. And he has Poonam Dalal co-starring with him in BB O BV. And she and
hmm,
him are also a great pairing.
hmm.
It's the only time I've seen them paired together, but she matches him with that same like goofiness and cuteness. I don't think I've ever seen Randhir and Neetu together, but I have a suspicion that they would have been cute together too. Because Neetu can bring the goof.
Feel like I have seen them
You have? Okay.
together.
But I feel like
Uh,
that could work as well. It's just Jaya and Randhir does not work for me.
yeah,
She needs to be with someone who is like
she's not a
uptight.
masala baby
No, she needs to
generally.
be, yeah, she needs to be with Amitabh, or she needs to be with Sanjeev Kumar or someone like that. She can't be with the goofballs.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
Nitu is his love interest in Hirilal Panalal.
Okay,
I thought
I've
so.
not
Yeah.
seen that film. Did you think they were cute together or no?
I mean, I love her, so I
Yeah.
probably did.
Okay. But I feel like those
Yeah,
energies could go
yeah.
together. But I would say my favorite Ranbir Kapoor films, definitely Kal Aaj Aur Kal, which I love. I think he's a very good director in that film. He's a very good actor in it. And making his grandpa and his dad act is not an easy task. In that film, he did a good job.
The book
Um,
talks about that a little bit. There
oh, I want
was
to hear because I
well,
like that movie.
and let me you finish your thought and I will
Oh,
find it and read it
but I
out.
was saying I would also recommend for people who like Randhir Kapoor, I would recommend BVO BV as well. Jawani Deewani, I would say just watch the songs on YouTube and get it
Hmm.
over with, but don't see the film.
Okay, so uh from an interview with Rishi Kapoor,
Hmm.
he says, we were all petrified of Papa G. I saw the awe in Dabu. Papa G loved to add lines even for other actors. Dabu couldn't contain the rhythm of the scene. Nobody could say anything to Papa G, particularly about continuity. He was an institution in himself and he came from theater. He didn't listen to his grandson. He meant well, but there was some strain in Dabu in that direction.
Interesting. I suspect that that actually added to their chemistry because the whole movie is basically about how the grandpa and the grandson just cannot see eye to eye,
Ah,
and
there
their
you
son
go.
Raj Kapoor in the middle is the one who's like
Yeah.
caught
Caught
between these two
between.
forces, and he's
Yeah.
like trying to appease both and not succeeding. And Prithviraj's
Hmm.
character in Kal Aaj Aur Kal is so stubborn. He is so stubborn. Like he thinks everything modern and is like bad, bad, bad. And
Hmm.
he's very much like a stick in the mud. But and you can tell he's enjoying himself tremendously though. So I'm sure the difficulties that they had actually probably added to their chemistry because they're really very watchable in their scenes together. Like you can see the deep love and affection that they had for each other. Like it's
Mm.
palpable. And it's also interesting because the Kapoor genes are so strong that everyone looks like everyone.
Yeah.
So when you see those dining table genes where there's like
Yeah.
Prithviraj at the head of the table, Raj on one side, and Randhir are like, oh my God, I see elements of every face and every other face. But yeah, I would say Randhir is like not my favorite actor, but I really wish that he had. I feel like he could have been a big comic star. And I wish that he had used some of his privilege and maybe tried to like carve a destiny for himself because he was
Yeah.
certainly in a position where he could have. And I wish he
Yeah.
had like sort of explored. It really just feels like he just wanted to ride on his family's kind of coattails. He's kind of like the first Nepo example we have in the Kapoor Khandan, where you can see that the hard work and the talent and the initiative seems to be missing because all three sons of Prithviraj clearly really applied themselves,
And the
right?
theater is missing. And is that related? I wonder.
I would say yes, because
It
in
must
theater you
be.
have to work so much harder. You can't
Although
take retakes.
Rishi also didn't have theater, right?
Rishi didn't do theater, I don't think so.
So
But Rishi was like just so talented.
yeah, I was chatting with someone on Twitter about how, I mean, if I were either of these two brothers, I might just look at Rishi and be like, this is so unfair.
Why?
Just he got all the talent. Not all,
Yeah.
he got more than one third of the talent.
Yes. Yeah.
He was also extremely lucky with Bobby.
He was.
But, I wonder how maddening that must have been, especially when you wanted to do these things and you didn't
Yeah.
get to.
It's probably like the same like Sanjay Kapoor thing. Like he comes across as so bitter even now in his interviews. I just watched like a little clip of his like from 2 or 3 days ago where he was defending nepotism as all these people always do,
Ugh.
and like it's like blah blah. And Sanjay Kapoor was like, "Here's why nepotism doesn't work. My older brother Boni Kapoor is a producer, and my older brother Anil Kapoor is an actor, and neither of them ever gave me chances." I was like, "Yes, because you suck." But he was going on and on about that, and I was like, again, you are just Anil Kapoor light. Why would anyone cast you? You have to create your own identity, Sanjay Kapoor. Why am I explaining this to like an older dude?
And again, the classic, just because it didn't happen to you doesn't mean it's not a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy.
So I pretty much only watched Jawani Deewani. I wanted to watch a movie called Jeet because that's the movie on which Randhir and Babita supposedly, I think they met.
Mm.
And because they had such a good time shooting for that movie together, I think that's why Babita was cast in Kal Aaj Aur Kal by Randhir.
Ah,
Um, and I was interested also in watching Jeet because Randhir Kapoor, you will be very interested in hearing his profession in this movie. He plays a Tangaiwala.
love it.
I was like, okay, but you're a Kapoor. I don't think Kapoors can be Tangewalas, but he's a Tangewala. And Babita, I'm not sure what she plays, but she wears these like ghagra cholis
Mm,
throughout the movie. So I think she's supposed to be like a village girl, but she's the most sophisticated and stylish village girl I've ever seen. It's kind of like when Saira Banu pretends to be a village girl. There's a movie in which Saira Banu was a fisherwoman, and I was like, girl, you are not a fisherwoman.
right.
You literally have a Hindi by way of London accent. You ain't no fisherwoman. Stop it. So I wanted to watch Jeet just because I wanted to see Ranbir
Yeah,
Kapoor pretending to be a Tangewala and Babita, who is literally half British. Like Babita's
right.
mother is a white lady from Britain. So I was very interested in seeing this very sophisticated London accented fashion icon wearing a Ghagra choli. But I ran out of time and I just couldn't. So I watched some songs on YouTube and they were very strange to say the least.
Uh,
What was
oh
which was
boy.
the was Hiralal Panalal the only Randhir movie you saw?
No, I didn't. So I didn't rewatch that. I watched
Okay.
Haath Ki Safai,
Oh, right.
which I did really enjoy. I do recommend. Good. It is a Salim Javed script,
Interesting.
but not as fiery as some of the others, but it does have interesting. So the brothers are separated in the beginning because their ma has died, and so they're gonna get on a train and go to the city to try to earn money. And they manage to
Okay.
leap aboard different train cars, like freight
Okay.
cars, and then in the night the train uncouples,
Oh,
and they both end up being thieves. So Randhir plays a pickpocket,
okay.
and I have to interject this. This has nothing to do with him. When he's still a boy, he kind of falls in with this gang of pickpockets with a I'm forgetting the Dickensian character, the Fagin,
Uh-huh.
character played by Satyan Kapoor, who I love
Okay.
as one of those character actors, and he has an amazing song about training all these boys to be
Okay.
thieves, and it's all like, put your hands up for hard work, and like, may we never meet an honest cop, and may
Oh,
we
that's
only
funny.
meet rich people because they want to stay. It's so
Right.
cute. And he's got the harmonium out. So it's got kind of a religious song vibe to it, not
Right.
a qawwali, but it's so cute. And I
Okay.
love it when you see one of the character actors getting a song or some kind of extended thing to do. And I don't think of him as being a song person at
No.
all, but I also don't know his early career very well. Uh, so good. I'll try to remember, put it in the comments, but definitely watch
Okay.
it if you haven't seen this film. But anyway, so they grow, and then when they grow up, Vinod is a like a higher powered gold smuggler.
Of course.
His wife is played by Simi Garawal, and you're like,
Oh,
what an odd combo.
that is a very odd combo.
Not bad, just like, oh, never seen that before.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Are they good together? I love Simi Gurmal,
Well,
just for the
so I don't want
record.
to be too spoilery, but I
Okay.
their relationship kind of goes through some ups and downs, and I thought they were
Mm.
pretty effective at it. Then Randir is like jolly pickpocket, he as he grows up, um he falls in love with Hema Malini, and there's a very funny
Mhm.
scene where she is in town as part of a dance performance troupe or something. I feel like she gets to do that a lot, maybe more than
Yeah.
some of the other women, but it's fine because it gives her a chance to dance, and obviously that's
Right.
great. And her leading man has bailed. And so she
Okay.
needs a leading man. So he's like, I can do it. And the scene that they're doing is from Devdas. So he's playing Devdas drunken around all over the place. And she's
Right.
playing
Is she
Chandramukhi, and he keeps messing up the lines and calling her Paro. So she like dances over to him, and she's like stage whispering Chandramukhi. And like, it's really funny. Again, like very good. As we've discussed, if a Kapoor can't play drunk, then something's wrong.
what is
Um,
the point then?
it's very cute. And then because you have two brothers, neither of whom is like good, that's
Mm.
interesting. And then because of various entanglements, the two women, I don't want to say they get switched, but they end up forming relationships with the opposite brother for
Oh,
totally legit, but like interesting reasons. Then there's misunderstandings because Simi Garawal is pregnant
okay.
in the movie, but then like you think she's gonna walk in front of a train, and it's all very dramatic, and like, but then someone else hears someone talking about a baby, and it's like, it's all confusing. And Ranjit is also there and threatening people, and it's
Ranjit
really
is probably
very,
threatening the baby.
he does threaten the baby at
I
the
knew
very
it.
end. In the finale scene, he grabs the baby and is like, I'm gonna kill this baby unless you let me get the gold or whatever. It's amazing. It's amazing. um
Hashtag just Ranjit things.
just Ranjit things. uh really enjoyed this film.
Okay.
Can't, once it's Salim Javed, you're like, oh, okay, I see the bones
Okay.
there, but yeah, not one of theirs that I think I'd ever. And it's also directed by Prakash Mehra, so like, again, someone who
Okay.
knows what
Okay.
they're doing. And I made a note
Yeah.
for myself, watch all of Prakash Mehra's films, because every time I see
Yes.
one, I like it a lot.
Yeah.
So I need to remember to watch these. I'm so sorry, I feel like I'm shouting. I'm very excited to be talking to you
No.
today. um Yeah, so
I
that's
think
what I
you're just
watched.
excited because Ranjit threatened the baby. I know you. You're
I
diabolical.
do, I do, I do love such a scene. And it was also good to see Hema Malini in something I really enjoyed because
Mm.
we have not been big fans of her on this podcast to date. And when I saw her name come up, I'm like, oh no, it's Auntie. But then I'm like, no, she was
Yeah.
really good. And like they have her dressed when she's off stage. Often she's wearing like bell bottoms, a turtleneck, and a jean jacket or something. Like she looks
Oh,
very 70s cool. I actually screen grabbed some of her outfits and also
okay.
like it's cute. It's really cute.
Yeah. Interesting.
What did you watch anything extra for Babita? You said maybe a song or two.
No, I just watched a lot of her songs,
Okay.
but that was it just underscored to me again how I actually do think that Babita was a fun leading lady.
Yeah.
She's actually also known for her candor. So one of my favorite Babita quotes
Mm,
is, "I was a flower pot who was paid in lakhs." Because apparently like a journalist asked her, and this is
that's
something I do
amazing.
actually like about her, because you know how sometimes there's actresses, it's like Jacqueline Kennedy, or not Jacqueline Kennedy, what am I saying,
Fernandez.
Jacqueline Fernandez, where, like, that they're flower pots and they have no interest in being anything but a flower pot. And yet they'll be like, yes, the craft of acting. And I'm like, please stop. But I like that when journalists asked Babita, she was basically like, yes, so my dad was an actor, Harish Shivdasani,
Yeah.
supporting actor. And so she was like, my dad was an actor, and my aunt was an actor, Sadhna. Sadhna
Mhm.
Shivdasani is her auntie. And so she's like, so, or was it her cousin? I think Sadhna Shivdasani may have been her cousin. But so she was like, so I got an opportunity to work in films, and I was like, okay, why not? And I made really good money, and I did 19 films, and I was a flower pot that was paid in lakhs. And I appreciate how refreshing she is.
I mean,
Um,
if you're in a kind of cinema where that's what they give women to do, then get
yeah.
your money, do your thing.
And even if you're not interested in doing anything else, and
Yeah.
you're just like, this is easy and I get to look pretty and I like to wear nice costumes that I design myself, it's like, great,
Yeah.
go for it. I'm glad you're enjoying your life. um, but I do always enjoy Babita, partly because Babita never bothered to get out of that little niche that she had. She never
Mm.
really tried to do roles that had a lot of histrionics, because I think she probably would not have done those well. And so she got this very specific, it's that very Saira Banu mold of, she is like this rich Seth's daughter, and she
Mhm.
studied abroad or something, and now she's come back and she's having a romance with some like funny guy, whatever. And she wears cute songs and she lip syncs to some nice songs, and she does a good job. And no one ever calls Babita a great dancer or anything. She's not, but she's actually very effective in the choreography. She does a decent job. No
Yeah.
one's gonna be like, "Oh my god, this is the next Vahida Rahman," but she's good. She gives good close-ups. She's cute. I saw one of her songs with Shashi, the "Bekhudi Mein Sanam Aa Gaye Paas Hum," the one in the meadow and everything.
Oh
She's so
yeah.
pretty in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like her, and I guess I kind of admire her for being this person that stood by her own daughters, because it really seems
Yeah.
like the Kapoors pretty much only accepted Karishma and Karina when they realized that those two girls were going to be the flag bearers of the Kapoor family, which had basically
Mm.
nosedived. And so it's always seemed a little bit of a matter of convenience to me that they finally like rallied behind them, because it really seems like the Kapoors couldn't care less about the girls when they were
Mhm.
growing up, because it was very much Babita's responsibility to look after them. And Karishma has spoken about how she did a lot of films that she may not have wanted to do. Prem Kaidi, Nishcha.
Mm.
I've seen, we'll get to this in the Karishma episode, but I've seen a lot of Karishma Kapoor films where she was very young, where she was 16, 17, and a
Mm.
lot of those plots are very predatorial. And
Mm.
there's a lot of songs she's had to do when she's 16, 17, and she's
Ugh.
wearing the skimpiest of outfits, and you can
Yeah.
tell she doesn't want to do it. But
Mm.
again, you're the Kapoor family. You keep talking about family. Why wasn't this woman and why weren't her daughters being supported? And now conveniently everyone is all like, oh, Bebo Lolo. So there's a part of me that's very like Team Babita, Team Karishma, Team Karina. And
Yeah.
I'm not that big a fan of like the whole other side.
Yeah.
I do think it's a very like patriarchal, toxic family. And there's a part of me that appreciates Babita for being like, you know what, screw you lot, and just like
Out. Yeah.
walking out. Like,
Yeah.
kudos to her. Good,
Yeah.
good job.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a soft spot for her.
Yeah. So I rewatched two films. One of them was actually for our twins episode last week, but in Hasina Manjayegi with
Yes.
Shashi, she is the Hasina in question,
Yes.
and I think she's really quite good in that film.
Mhm.
Her role is not as big as the two Shashis put together, but that's going to happen in a twin or a look-alike movie like that, I think. But I think she really holds her own quite well. She does the like kind of haughty rich girl thing at first, and then she mellows and falls in love with the nice Shashi, and then as the sort of like war widow who thinks maybe the
Mm.
person saying he's her husband is actually not, and is
Mhm.
not only is not her husband, but is this rapist basically who
Right.
pursued her all through college and took every opportunity to fool her into
Mhm.
situations with him. It's like a very gross guy. And you
Mhm.
see her kind of falling apart. And I think she does pretty well at that,
Okay.
honestly. Then I rewatched Farz, which is a film that I love with Jitendra, basically Hindi cinema's first spy film. So
Mm.
much fun. She is definitely a flower pot in that film. Now, it should be said, when mostly all you have to do is songs, because that's basically all
Mm.
she gets to do. There's one kind of emotional scene where her father is telling her why he appears to be a criminal that Jitendra is investigating, and uh,
Okay.
all this kind of stuff. So you see her kind of have some, have a few emotional moments there, and they're fine. But I don't know how you would be anything but a flower pot with Jitendra dancing around the way he does.
Yes.
Um, and that is not a knock on Jitendra, because I think I was thinking about kind of the differences between him and Shami, and obviously it's a little bit later, but like we're in the
Yeah.
that thread of continuity or that thread of influence or whatever. And I know that's not the point of this episode, but it was just interesting. So I don't really fault her for kind of just shimmying a little bit and like raising one edge of her skirt or her dupatta and then like putting it down and then going, like this,
Yeah.
and like kind of doing very, very basic things. Now, I don't know if that's what the choreographer had in mind, or they had something grander and then they tried to teach her and she couldn't do it. Like,
Right.
I don't know, but it's good enough. And she's a she is substantial enough in those settings to be opposite Jitendra, doing very jumping jack, very, Beatlesy, Elvisy, all
Very
that kind of stuff.
energetic.
Very energetic, lots of shimmy, lots of jumping. In some of the songs, he has a song with Aruna Irani in the beginning who kind of can stand up to him a little better.
Yeah.
Super, super cute. Love this movie. You should watch it if you haven't. But
Okay.
Babita is also there. It's kind
Right.
of that, but also it's her character as much as her,
Right.
I think. So I don't
Yeah.
have a ton to say about her as a performer either. And I agree with you that I always enjoy her outfits, much as I always enjoy Sadhna or Sharmila
Yeah.
Tagore or many of the other people in this era. But to know that she did some of her own is extra
Mhm.
pleasing, because that is a skill. That is a type of work
Yeah.
that we don't get to say enough about usually, or see enough credit for.
I actually was reading a Babita interview, and in that, like an old interview, and in that she was asked about her dancing because that was
Mm,
hard for her.
mm,
And she spoke about the time that she was doing a movie with Shammi.
mm.
And so Babita and Shammi were doing the movie, and Shammi was horrified to discover that she didn't know how to count beats in her head. So the
Oh.
choreographer would have to keep cueing her. And Shammi kept observing her, and he was like, "What is she doing?" And then he took her aside and he said, "Why is the choreographer cueing you constantly?" And she said, "I don't know how to like count beats in my head." And he was like, "Wait, let's take a little bit of a break. I'm going to show you." And then he coached her and got her up to speed and taught her. And he said, "Now that you know how to count beats, it's going to make it much easier for you to dance." And then from then on, she said dancing became so much smoother for
Now
her.
that is nepotism.
Well,
Girl
I
does
don't think
not
she was
even
Randhir's wife
know.
at that point.
No, 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 but her family got her into films, right? So
Yes,
like
yes.
you can't even,
Oh,
so
learning on the
little about
job.
music, that in a cinema where music is crucial,
Integral,
that you
especially for
cannot even count. But
actresses.
like literally I learned that in first grade.
Right.
Aside from the fact I was already taking piano lessons as a little kid, like we learned that in school.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying the school systems are the same, but like, oh girl.
Right. But
That's
imagine being
interesting.
Shammi Kapoor and you're on the set and you're like, what is she doing? Why
Yeah.
what is
Because
happening?
you don't have to grow up in a Kapoor household
Right.
to have that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and also if you're
Fascinating.
gonna be an actress, like maybe learn those things.
A little
But it
bit.
made me happy because I love Shammi Kapoor. So I was
Yeah.
like, this is a
That's
cute
nice.
anecdote.
That's
I
nice.
like that he like to I've read a lot of Shammi Kapoor anecdotes where he was like known for being super helpful and kind and he would like coach people and help them. Like Sarah Banu talks about him. I know I'm a Shammi Kapoor fan, so I will always bring up these anecdotes. But like I like that he was known to be helpful and kind instead of someone who just like stood and judged these people that were not as trained as they should have been.
Hope he treated them with the same respect after he had been drinking.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah. Can we
Okay,
please, we got to talk about Ram Terry Ganga Maili.
okay,
Oh God.
disclaimer, I warned Beth multiple times
Oh,
about how
everyone's warned
horrific
me.
Teri Ganga Maili is. I asked her if she wanted to do it. She didn't have to do it, and she insisted on doing it. And at one point, and she has seen Teri Ganga Maili, I think, in 2 parts, or
Two
like she
parts.
didn't see it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
after she saw the first part, she sent me a WhatsApp saying, I'm actually kind of liking this movie. It's not that bad. I was like, girl, wait,
And
watch
you were
the whole
right.
thing
You were
and
right.
then tell me.
So the
Yes,
first
go for it.
half or so, I didn't mind. I really
Yes.
didn't mind. The basic gist, if you do not know the movie, is Rajiv Kapoor plays Kulbhushan Kharbhanda's son, rich son. His dad's a sleazy politician. His dad wants him to get married to his friend Raza Murad's daughter. Now,
Mm.
no one should have to be Raza Murad's daughter or business partner or anything. That man is bad news in every single film I've seen him in, I think, which is not his fault. But
Yes.
it's like,
As bad as Shakti, I would say.
you see Amjad Khan, but then you're like, oh, but sometimes he's like jolly uncle or
Yeah.
whatever. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, Raza Murad, just like look the heck
Razamrat
out
and
down.
Shakti Kapoor are always
Yeah.
bad news.
Yeah. Bad news. And he goes off to the mountains. I forget where exactly.
Yes.
Meets Mandakini, whose name is Ganga, because we don't do
Yeah.
symbolism here. We do like
Right.
punch in the face.
Yes.
They are instantly besotted for reasons.
Yes.
They get themselves married. They consummate their marriage while Tom Alter, her brother, wearing this most horrible fake facial hair ever. I am enraged on Tom Alter's behalf. Defends them against a whole onslaught of people, and like he acts as a guy in the back and some guy kills him, like it's terrible. And then there's no more Tom Alter, which is sad for me because I love him.
Right.
And then Rajiv has to go back to the city because he's in the mountains collecting holy water for his grandma, Sushma Seth, who's like barely 50 in this film. And I'm like, she's been a grandma the whole time I've ever seen her. Like, how is this possible? It takes the water back. Poor Mandakini is by herself, no brother anymore. She's, of course, pregnant, has the baby. Guy like Rajiv is like, they're trying to get him married. Then poor Ganga tries to go find him in Calcutta where they live, and all sorts of absolutely horrible things happen to her on the
Yes.
way. Ganga is besmirched left, right, and center. She's sold, she's trafficked. She is eventually purchased by Raza Murad for his entertainment, and he even says to Kulbhushan, we'll share her. It's so gross. It is very hashtag yes, all men. And I include Raj Kapoor in that
Yes.
because he created this monstrosity.
Yes.
Sexism and grossness towards women momentarily put to the side.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to complain that this movie's even okay, so it's mid 80s. Hindi cinema, in my opinion, is starting to take a slide towards the sleaze overall, that from which it does not really recover until the late 90s, in my opinion, based on what I've seen. I don't
No, you're right.
This is the era where I start to nope out. And so we've seen gross, but I expect better from Raj Kapoor. Even though he is established as kind of a grody old man. We know that. But there's usually some point, some artistry, something interesting, some narrative, some energy, something, some drive. And this movie is boring.
It's so bad.
This movie is sleazy and boring. And that is a double sin from which...
It's also very exploitative.
It's very exploitative. It's very repetitive. It goes on forever. Nothing nothing of interest really happens
It's
at
a
all.
very long movie.
It's a very long movie, and I believe that when we started our Kapoor or when we talked about Raj Kapoor, and I said I had started this film, I was looking at the article by the Iowa film professor Philip Ludendorff about this, and he was saying it has kind of an interesting environmental message. And I saw that in the beginning, like in the song under the
Yeah.
titles, that never came back, at least in the version I saw. Like maybe I saw a weird edited version or something. I don't think
No.
there's any point to this movie at all, other than that men are gross, which we already know. And
Yeah.
there's nothing redemptive about this movie at all. Also, Mandakini is not good. I know it's
No.
her first film, but she's not good. Um,
Rajiv isn't good either.
Rajiv is not great. He also doesn't have interestingly, she has more to do than he does, I would say,
Yeah.
which is fairly unusual.
He's just there.
He's there. He's also a pot plant, like a flower pot.
Yeah.
I don't like this movie at all. I was very disappointed because often when I hear a film is bad from all corners, that does make me want to watch it for myself so I can have an
Yeah.
informed opinion about it. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, you know what? I actually found this, and that compelling or interesting or whatever. Not that it would redeem the film, and not that I think
Right.
everyone's wrong, but just I saw some things in it that were worth seeing for me. This is not worth seeing. Please do not watch this movie if you have not. Believe everybody. It is sleazy. It is not well done in any way. It is relentless. It is horrible. Nobody really learns anything. There's no learning, there's no growing. It's
No,
just
there is
relentless
one
and
piece of
awful.
learning, which was unintended by Raj
Oh,
Kapoor.
oh, tell
But
me.
the only piece of I actually use this movie as an example when I try to make this point. My point is quit while you're ahead.
Quit
There
while
are
you're
a lot
ahead.
of people in the film industry, there are a lot of writers, there's just a lot of people in every industry that
Yeah.
you'll see, right? Where they were clearly very good at their job or their career at one point in time. That's how they made their name. And then they consistently did good work, and that's how they solidified their name. And then they, hubris took over, and they believed all the yes men that they were surrounded by, and their work became shoddy, and instead of bowing out,
Yeah.
they continued to work, and they ruined their legacy. This movie is a prime example of that. I think that Raj Kapoor should have stopped making movies once Bobby came out and became a giant hit, and he should have taken the profits for that and just stopped, because he's after that he just started making these absolute horrible films. I mean, it's like it's so hard to sell people on, hey, you should watch Shichar Sabis and Avara and Chori Chori, all of these good films this year, Fir Sabha Hogi, all these amazing films he made, because then people just think of Ram Teri Ganga Maili. Good job. You just destroyed your legacy.
So
So
we have
that's the learning.
Mary Nam Joker in 1970,
Hmm.
Bobby 1973,
Hmm.
Satyam Shivam Sundaram in 1978, Prem Rogue in 82, and this one in 85. So yeah. And
So
I mean, and
Quit after Bobby was a hit.
yeah. When Satyam Sundam I
Yeah.
can't pronounce it. Yeah, that one.
SSS.
When that one looks good by comparison, like Jeebus, because at least it has Shashi and Zenat in it. At least it has some
Yes.
compelling waterfalls and stuff. Like, well, this has a waterfall too, as we know. But
Yes.
this is just bad. This is a bad movie.
Yes. So when Beth was feeling really terrible after having seen this, because this is what happens when people watch Ram Teri Ganga Maili, they feel really
Mm.
bad. They get a bout of indigestion. They get a headache. They
Have
feel
the
really angry at the world, and they want to punch walls. I'm not saying you did any of those things, but it would
ick.
be believable if you did. Um,
Ugh.
so I was trying to like be an optimistic ray of sunshine, and I said to Beth, well, there is one good thing that happened. Now when the chorus of people say, oh my god, I hate Ranteri Gagabelli, you will no longer have FOMO, and you can say, yes, I
I
do
also,
hate that movie.
and I certainly will. It honestly, I suspect it probably doesn't come up super much, but this film is, in my experience, infamously um
It's no, it's
mocked.
hated.
Yeah,
It's
and
hated.
but almost all that I'd ever heard about it was poor Mandakini and her white sari and the waterfall,
Yeah.
right? Like that was the only thing really that I ever heard anyone say about it. I'm like, well, one shot does not a movie
Right.
make. There's got to be more to it than this. And there is, but it's still incredibly repetitive and yucky.
It's just a horrible movie. But I
Yucky.
also feel a little bit, tiny bit bad for Rajiv Kapoor. Imagine this being your debut film.
It wasn't.
Oh, he did a movie before this?
Yeah, he done films before this. Um,
Films, plural?
yeah, let
Wow.
me pull it up. It's not. It's his big hit. So he
Hmm.
debuted in 1983 with Divya Rana, who is also in this one, Ek Jaan Hai Hum, which does
Okay.
not even have a Wikipedia entry. So it's he also was in something called Asman in 1984, Loverboy, Mere Sati, Zabardast.
Wow.
Those are all in 1985, which is the same year as this. So he'd done a little bit.
Okay.
Um, it if Wikipedia is to be trusted, all of those films came out before Ram Teri Ganga Maili.
Okay.
I could be wrong about that. But yeah, so he's not done a lot,
Right.
but
But
he's
he's
done a
certainly
few.
not a debutante.
No, now did they
Interesting.
film when they filmed this, was he a debutante? That I do not know. Like if this was meant to be and I don't know. But
Right. Interesting. Wow. Anyway, I feel bad for him because
and
how do you recover
also
from this?
he died at 58 years old. He was not that
Hmm.
old. I hadn't really I mean I knew he had passed away fairly recently, but I didn't know he was that young. Um,
Yeah, he was the youngest of the three brothers, and I
mhm.
read interviews of Rishi Kapoor. Plus, he's spoken in his autobiography in Kulam Kula that both of us read. He's spoken about how much him and Randhir used to worry about Rajiv because he was known for going on these like alcoholic benders,
Yeah.
and he would just go away to his like apartment or something. They would not know where he was and they
Yeah.
worried about him. He also had a failed marriage. He didn't really
Yeah.
keep himself busy doing anything. So he was essentially just drinking himself to death. And his two older brothers did worry about him a lot. And I read also that Neeta Singh was very fond of him. And she would
Hmm.
also try to like get him out of his shell or whatever, but it doesn't seem like it worked.
Yeah. And he too doesn't, as I think we were already saying, like he doesn't fit in with what heroes are doing at this time. So it's,
Mhm. Also didn't have
um,
much talent or anything, so don't know how you're supposed to
no.
survive at
The
that
book
time.
says that he too didn't really want to be an actor. He wanted to be a director.
Okay.
Lake Tandon believes that he had his father's talent and vision and would have probably made films the way Raj did had he been given the chance. Is that Lake Tandon just being nice about the Kapoors? Who knows?
I feel like he
You could
is.
be a terrible actor and still be a good director, certainly. So, like,
Rakesh
I don't
Roshan is a
know.
good example of that.
That's exactly who I was just thinking. And Rakesh
Yeah.
Roshan is way better than this guy as an actor.
Oh,
Way
yeah.
better.
Rakesh Roshan gave us the crocodiles in Khunbari Mang, okay? He also gave us the wonderful Kali song in Karan Arjun, Jai Ma Kali. I will
But even
always
as an
forever be grateful for that. Oh,
actor,
yeah.
he's better.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's not a
I
whole lot
have
to
seen
say.
Prem Granth, and it was
Oh yeah.
horrific and terrible, and I think that's Rajiv Kapoor's direction.
He it says after the debacle of Prem Granth, his directorial ambitions have taken a backseat. Like his brother Rishi, he too appears to be a victim of once bitten, twice shy syndrome. At the time of
No
the
good,
writing,
because Prem Granth is horrific.
at the time of the writing of the book, he was involved with RK Films, and was one of the producers of A Ablaut Chalin, which I have seen and I remember is terrible, but
He is also terrible.
yeah.
Yeah, this is why I have trouble believing that he had Raj Kapoor's talent, and if only he'd been given a chance, because Prem Granth was like a big film. Like it had a big budget, it was mounted really well, it was promoted a lot, and I watched it, not in the theater or anything, but I watched it on TV because it had Rishi and Madhuri, and it had some like good
Yeah.
songs. So I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And there was a rumor, and I don't know to what extent that was true, but it was like loosely inspired by Thomas Hardy's novel Tess of the Dobrivals, which I
Yeah.
love. And so I was like, okay, if you're telling me that Madhuri is going to play Tess of the Dobrivals, then I'm here for that. You know, it's like if someone decided to make like a Hindi version of Les Miserables, I would 100% watch that. Um, but I don't want Bansali to make it. But come on, Beth, you know how emo I am. You know I would love Les Miserables.
I hate Les Mis. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But
Aw.
also I'm like, that must exist, right? There must be a Hindi version.
There, if there is, I haven't heard of it. I don't think it is famous
Tell
then, but I
us
would
in the
watch it.
comments if you know, is there a Hindi version of this or an Indian version of this of any
I
kind?
want a scene where the teeth are being sold.
I mean, stealing bread, like
Yes,
what could be more filmy?
stealing
So,
bread, selling teeth, all the
and
horrible depravity.
honestly, I mean, the only part of Les Mis I like is the song where they put up all the junk in the street to try to hold off, the
Yeah,
revolutionaries or the
I love the
did you
revolutionary
see
song.
that? Oh,
Inqilab, that would be so good.
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So anyway, I watched
Should
Prem
this
Granth.
be our movie? Just kidding. No, no, no.
No.
Eh.
Also, our sofa change is not gonna cover that. That's gonna be a
No,
very
you're right.
expensive
It's not.
spectacle. We don't have the
It's
money for
not.
that.
No, you're right.
Unless all the actors are our animals. I have one
Don't
dog,
tempt
2
me.
cats, and you have a cat. Also, your cat's name is Hugo. Is that
Well,
a sign?
exactly.
I think it's a
Exactly.
sign.
He came with that name, and I have always assumed he's named for Victor Hugo, but I don't actually know that. And
I
it's
think
probably
I
the
think
Disney
it's a
movie, but
sign.
close enough.
No, we could mount Beth and Pitu Productions, Filmi Ladies Productions, Lemis. We could do it. I have
In
faith in us.
in the Shashi Kapoor film, Pyar Kiya Ja, that I love so much, Mahmood is trying to make a film career, and his company is called Vava Productions.
Yeah.
That's our name, Vava
Which he
Productions.
reprises in Anna
Yeah,
Sapna Apna with
yeah,
Baba Productions. And I
yeah.
love that he says his debut film was Dracula Ki Maut. I love
I would
that.
watch that.
I would totally watch Dracula Ki Maut.
I mean, I've
Um,
seen like Huni Dracula, so like, why not?
yes. But yeah, so imagine my disappointment. Imagine someone has told you that there's a movie coming out. It's called Prem Granth. It has Rishi Kapoor and Madhuri Dixit, whom you adore. It has good music, and it's based on Thomas Hardy's Test of the D'Urbervilles. So you think, okay,
Yeah.
I will watch this.
Ugh.
And then you put on Sony Max or whatever TV channel that they're going to show the movie on, and then you see it, and it is Prem Granth, and now you're angry and you want to throw a brick at your TV, but you don't because your mother would like ground you or something, and
Yeah.
you're not filmy, so you can't do it. But there is so much anger there. So no, I 100% disagree with Lake
Mm,
London. I don't think Rajiv could have been an RK.
yeah. No.
Have you seen Prem Granth?
No.
It's very bad. Don't watch it.
I couldn't even finish Tess of the D'Urbervilles, so I feel like that movie's probably not for me.
I've not seen the movie Test of. I've just read the book.
Yeah, I couldn't finish the book. So
Oh, I love the book. It's so emo.
yeah. Thomas
You're
Hardy's
like,
not really for me. So
oh, I love Thomas Hardy. He's so emo.
yeah.
Jude the Obscure is so emo. I cried and cried when I read Jude the Obscure, and then I watched the movie that
Oh.
Christopher Eccleston, and oh, it is so depressing, Beth. I was like shook. You're like, you were not doing a good job of selling this.
No, I tried that book too and also could not get into it.
Oh,
So
I have a copy of it. You want me to mail it to you?
no, ma'am.
Okay, fine.
Thank you, but no. Thank you, no.
You're like, I send you the Devanand autobiography, and you send me Jude the Obscure.
Have we talked about this on the podcast yet?
We have not.
So
So
I surprise mailed Pitu a copy of Devanand's autobiography, and she texts me and she's like, this just came in the mail and I don't know who it's from, and I thought maybe it was my husband's friend, and I was like, girl, it was me. Of course it was me. And then I bought a copy too. So we will eventually get to that. We will talk about it.
book club will get to that at some point.
It's not small.
No, it's very, very thick. And
Yeah.
also I had it on my kitchen island, and I had like a bouquet of roses next to it, and they were freshly cut roses. And the next morning when I came down, a few rose petals had very perfectly landed on Dev Saab's face on his book, and I sent it to Beth, and I was like, surely this was like ordained.
The
Surely
spirit of
this is
Dev
a sign,
is
the
there.
spirit of Dev. Because
Mhm.
literally his book is called Romancing with Life, and there are
Mhm.
red rose petals on it. This is a sign.
I mean, it looks like you were doing marketing photos for the movie,
Right?
for the book. I mean,
I was like, "This is my mood board."
ooh.
Okay,
Ugh.
so, are we done talking about the great and amazing cinematic contributions of the brothers Randhir, Rajiv, and, Babita Shivdasani?
Yes, I believe we are. And that's enough said, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is where the Kapoors sort of start to go downhill. But then our next Kapoor that we'll talk about will be Rishi Kapoor. So then there is that uptick. But we kind of had to get through this episode first.
We
But
did.
I'm glad I got to see all of
Oh yeah.
Babita's fashion outfits.
Yeah.
So
I don't
yeah,
even regret having watched Teri Ganga Maili, actually, because now I know. And I
yes.
like to
And
see
what
things for
doesn't kill you
myself.
makes you stronger. And now you are stronger.
Exactly. And now I am
You have
stronger. I
you
have the
have gained in moral
fury of
fortitude.
I have the fury of axe wielding Tom Alter
Yes. You
channeled.
have his facial hair has strengthened you. You
That's
have
right.
gained in moral fortitude. You have
Oh
gained
yeah.
in courage. Nothing can shock you anymore.
Nope. I've seen
It's
it all.
just, you've seen it all. It has made you a tad bit more jaded. and
Which
taken
was
away
not
some of your
which was not a
naivete.
large leap, honestly. Like I was pretty close to being there anyway. So, but this was a
Yeah.
good gentle shove into.
It pushed
Actually,
you into like burn the world territory,
yeah,
didn't
there's
it?
nothing gentle about this movie. It's
No.
a hearty shove. And start with Raza Murad, fictional Raza
Yes.
Murad. I know nothing about the real person, nor do I wish to. Let's not
Maybe he
complicate
has an
matters.
autobiography and we should read it. Okay,
I mean,
never
he's
mind.
in a lot of movies that I would be interested to know more about, but I feel like that's often not what the autobiographies are talking about. So
No, they're always like raising themselves up, is all they do.
when we get to the Rishi and Neetu episode, I think
Yes.
we'll have to kind of pick apart since we've discussed Bobby at length and we've discussed Rishi's autobiography at length. We'll have to try to figure out a way to add something. And the Kawali episode, like
Yes,
Rishi Kapoor is kind of one of the patron saints of this podcast.
he
So we'll have to
is.
figure out a different approach to take. We'll have to maybe go with films that aren't as big deals, go with his lesser.
I know I wanna watch one of his parallel movies,
Ah,
which is not very well known, but it's supposed to be really good, and it stars him with Hema Malini, and it's a very interesting story, and, the movie is called Ek Chaddar Maili Si, and
hmm,
he's supposed to be phenomenal in it, and the story is so interesting, Beth.
okay.
So I really wanna watch it, and I'm hoping that it'll be on, like, YouTube or Einthusen or something, because not many people have seen or heard of this film, but I also
I've
am very
not,
curious
yeah.
to see the Rishi-Hema combo,
Sure.
but it's one of the few parallel films that Rishi actually did, so
Yeah.
I'm very interested
Interesting.
in seeing that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, I think that concludes this episode of Filmy Ladies. We experienced some highs and some lows, and mostly lows,
Mostly
in this
those.
episode. But what we lost in our lows, we also gained in moral fortitude, and we had some laughs at Randhir and Rajiv's expense, and we enjoyed talking about the pom poms in Babita's outfits.
Mhm.
So there were some laughs along with the many sorrows that we went through. This was a very Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum episode.
Mhm.
So tell us what you think of the great cinematic accomplishments of Randhir, Rajiv, and Babita. And tell us which of their movies you like and recommend. If you want to vent about Ram Tere Ganga Maili and talk about how traumatized you are, and you know your therapist does not want to listen, we are here to listen. We will listen to you vent. And if you have not seen this film, don't put yourself to the torture. It is genuinely not worth
And
it.
if you need an individualized message about why not to, tell me what's tempting you about it, and I will try to dissuade you. But also, I do really appreciate I just want to know for myself. I get it. I mean, it's 3 hours of your life. I mean, you know, there are worse ways to spend your time probably, but I really, truly recommend not watching this film.
Yeah. I also do not recommend watching Prem Granth, but I will
Mhm.
repeat again, watch Kal Aaj Aur Kal, very sweet movie. Okay, that concludes this episode, and we will see you next week again on Filmy Ladies. Thank you for watching. Bye.